The story begins on Prince Horus's birthday, the day every royal child undergoes the magic affinity test. The maids whisper in excitement. Everyone expects greatness. After all, Horus is said to possess immense magical power. Surely his element must be something extraordinary. But when Horus steps forward and places his hand on the crystal, the light that emerges leaves the entire room frozen. It was sand. The celebration dies instantly. Whispers ripple through the crowd, turning to snickers. Sand magic? That's useless, they mutter. Even his bloodline is mocked, calling him the concubine's child. And worst of all, his own father looks down on him, labeling him an inferior race, a disgrace to royalty. That is one beta cuck father. 3 years later, Prince Horus finds himself exiled to the desert, abandoned, humiliated, and questioning everything. Would things have been different if he'd been born with another element? Still, somewhere deep inside, he knows sand magic could be powerful if used right. Then the switch flips. Rage replaces despair. He stomps the ground, cursing his brother, and decides if the world calls him the Prince of Sand, then he'll make that title mean something. And where better to start than the desert itself, the perfect domain for his magic. With renewed determination, Horus focuses on survival. His first mission, find water. He casts a detection spell, the sand rippling under his control, and soon enough, bingo, a water source hidden beneath the dunes. Riding his own sand like a surfboard, he cheers to himself that maybe exile isn't so bad after all. After unearthing the water, he moves to his next goal, shelter. But Horus doesn't just make a hut, he builds a freaking castle. A sand fortress rises from the ground, huge and majestic, like something straight out of an isekai opening. He looks at it, satisfied, and smirks. Not bad. Inside, it's plain at first, so with a single touch, he reshapes the interior, carving designs, forming rooms, all in seconds. Talk about interior design speedruns. Exhausted, he lies down, realizing he now needs food, plants near the water source, and something softer than sand to sleep on. Before he can plan more, his radar picks up movement. Someone collapsed nearby. Without hesitation, Horus surfs through the dunes where he spots a person and a camel surrounded by goblins. It's a full-blown ambush. The goblins close in, one ready to pounce, but Horus acts first. A spear of sand pierces the attacker mid-air, followed by a swirling sandstorm that sweeps through the rest. One final spinning sand blade cuts through the horde with a strangely satisfying rhythm. When the dust settles, Horus approaches the fallen figure, a hooded traveler. He checks for injuries and freezes. Beneath the hood is a beautiful girl, unconscious but breathing. Snapping out of it, Horus lifts her up and takes her to his sandcastle, though the poor animal nearly faints at the sight of the giant fortress. Inside, he realizes she'll need food to recover. He heads out to forage in the dunes using his sand radar once again and finds something unexpected. 2 species of ants locked in combat. The black ones overpower the white, and just as they are about to finish them off, Horus intervenes. The white ants, in their strange insect chatter, thank him. As gratitude, they offer a jar of mysterious clear liquid, which thankfully turns out to be ant honey, not whatever you are thinking. Returning to the castle, Horus carefully feeds the honey to the unconscious girl. The next morning, he wakes up to find her standing, alive and radiant. She thanks him sincerely, wanting to repay him, but Horus brushes it off. Gathering her courage, she makes one final request. Could she stay here with him? The girl thanks Horus for saving her and insists she'll do anything to repay him. Horus, being, well, a guy, briefly lets his imagination wander somewhere it really shouldn't. Realizing it, he slaps himself across the face to snap out of it and awkwardly asks to hear her story instead. The girl introduces herself as Isis and her trusty camel, Raku. She explains she was banished from her homeland. Horus pauses, same as him. That small connection makes Isis's eyes widen. He shrugs it off, adding that being exiled with sand magic wasn't so bad. After all, in the desert, sand is everywhere. Isis looks around the vast, hand-carved corridors of the sandcastle and is stunned. Everything, from the walls to the intricate detailing, is pure sculpted sand. She asked if Horus built all this himself and what exactly got him exiled. When she learns how unfairly he was treated, her expression hardens. Without thinking, she grabs his hand and declares that they'll build the greatest kingdom together. The determination in her eyes could melt glass. Then, realizing how bold that sounded, she flusters and mutters that she didn't mean it in a sus way. Horus just smiles. Two outcasts in a desert with nowhere else to go. Why not start over together? With that settled, Horus decides it's time to show her what sand magic can really do. He forms a sand wave and tells her to hop on. Isis screams the whole ride while poor Raku, the sussy camel, is having the time of his life. They glide across the dunes until they reach an oasis where a ripe coconut drops from above like divine approval. Back at the castle, the trio unloads a massive haul, meat, fruits, and plants. Isis can't believe it. Sand magic isn't just flashy. It's utility, transport, and storage all in one. At the small pond near the castle, they plant a cactus to start cultivating their oasis, but it still looks bare. That's when Isis steps forward smirking. She casts life magic and the desert blooms. Tiny sprouts shoot into towering trees. The barren pond transforms into a vibrant paradise. Horus cheers her on, but halfway through she turns and bluntly asks if she can take a quick bath. There goes the drinking water supply, unless... He's fine drinking her bath water. Horus nopes out of their fast, leaving Isis to relax in peace. Worried she might stink after days of travel, she even asked her sussy camel if she smells bad. The camel, unbothered, clearly doesn't care. A quick montage follows. Isis soaking in the water, finally letting herself breathe. She vows to repay Horus properly one day. Meanwhile, inside the castle, Horus is losing his mind. There's a pretty girl bathing right outside, and his imagination is staging a full-blown rebellion and going wild. He tries to stay calm until he hears her scream. Panicking, he runs out, only to find Isis completely fine. Unfortunately, he also catches a glimpse of her bare skin and two melons. Both of them freeze like statues. Horus bolts out, shouting that he didn't see anything. Sure, buddy. Later that day, the friendly white ants from before reappear. Waving their tiny legs like they're calling him over, Horus and Isis follow the little convoy through the dunes until they arrive at a massive ant nest rising from the sand. Inside, it's an enormous cavern. High ceilings, glittering walls, and a faint hum echoing from deeper within. They venture further, where an unexpected sight awaits them. A bipedal queen ant seated atop a stone throne. She speaks, in human language, introducing herself as the overseer and queen of all ants. Horus and Isis stand frozen, their jaws practically on the floor. The ant queen explains that her honey ant colony is weak in combat and that she needs an escort to negotiate peace with the Iron Ant King. Horus, ever the pragmatic guy, proposes a deal. In exchange for steady supplies of that sweet ant honey, he'll escort her. The queen agrees instantly. Moments later, the unlikely trio departs. Horus surfing the dunes on a massive sand wave, the queen being mildly surprised. Even she's stunned. A single sand element user pulling off this much power? Ridiculous. Eventually, they arrive at the Iron Ant's territory, a colossal fortress made from metallic sand, glinting under the desert sun. Before they can even admire it, black ant sentries detect them. Horus responds the only way he knows how, by dropping a sand tsunami straight through the front gate. The fortress quakes, black ants scatter. Horus sweeps through, neutralizing enemies left and right, not killing them. Amid the chaos, he notices the material of the walls, a dark, shimmering sand laced with iron. He touches it and feels a pulse. He can control it, same as regular sand. Jackpot. Before he can test it further, a booming voice echoes through the hall, dripping with authority. The Iron Ant King himself sits upon his throne. The queen approaches calmly, saying she came to negotiate. The king doesn't even let her finish. He simply declines. But then his composure cracks. His eyes twist and he erupts in fury, lunging forward with a roar. The queen screams that something's wrong. The king's never acted like this before. Horus senses it too. There's another life form inside his head. A parasite. Acting fast, Horus summons a sand golem to restrain the king so he can perform an extraction spell. The golem charges, only to be instantly shredded by one swipe of the king's spear. Unfazed, Horus spawns another, bigger one. It grapples the king mid-attack, locking him down. With the target immobilized, Horus casts a purification spell. A grotesque parasite bursts out from the king's head. He flicks his wrist and the creature disintegrates mid-air in a burst of sand. When the dust settles, the Iron Ant King lies unconscious but alive. The queen thanks Horus profusely, relief flooding her face. When the king finally wakes, he's dazed and terrified, surrounded by humans and unsure what happened. The queen quickly explains everything. Realizing the destruction he caused, the king slams his fist into the table, trembling with guilt. He apologizes to the queen, then bows to Horus for saving him. He insists he must repay them, but Horus grins and says they can talk back at his place. Cut to the castle. The ant royalty are absolutely losing it over how gorgeous it is. The oasis, the architecture, the vibes, peak resort energy. They can't stop praising the place while Horus awkwardly scratches his head. Once they settle inside, Horus interrupts the praise to ask the obvious question: if they actually have names. They blink at each other. Apparently not. After a short huddle in ant language, the queen turns back and asks Horus to name them. He thinks for a moment, then decides Ain for the king, Mel for the queen. The moment the words leave his mouth, a massive light erupts and engulfs the room. The air explodes with magic. When the light fades, the ants aren't ants anymore. Ain now stands as a tall, armor-clad man radiating knightly energy. Mel, on the other hand, transforms into a stunningly curvy woman straight out of a fantasy artist's dream. Horus and Isis freeze on the spot, both trying to process what just happened. The newly human ants pledge their loyalty to Horus. And of course, the male ant gets full armor and the female ant completely nude. Yeah, seems like the author was on something that day. As Mel and Ain swear allegiance, Horus experiences a very different kind of shock. Mel's bare, full frontal bazookas hits him like a magical nuke. He instantly nosebleeds, collapsing under the sheer power of plot. Before things can escalate, Isis throws herself in front of him, hands clamped over his eyes, face redder than the desert sunset. Mel, thinking he's injured, rushes over in concern, which only makes Isis's aura turn homicidal. Isis shoves a cloth at Mel, forcing her to cover up while still keeping Horus's vision permanently restricted. Meanwhile, Ain, being the only sane one, calmly explains that when a magical creature is named by a human, it automatically forms a contract, but turning human in the process, that's new even for him. He again reaffirms his loyalty to Horus and adds that their entire colony has already relocated their nest near the castle to stay close to their new master, pointing outside. Mel sits by the oasis, sewing more clothes as Isis calls out for Horus's help. The next project was to transform a barren patch of sand into farmland. Horus agrees immediately, and the crew sets off to gather materials. Their expedition is cut short when a massive lion beast appears from behind the dunes. Ain steps forward, spear in hand, grinning that he's much stronger now. In a single flash, he lunges, and the beast drops dead on the spot. Absolute clean hit. Horus applauds, calling it a perfect execution. Above them, vultures begin circling, eyeing the fresh kill. Before they can swoop down, Mel fires a gleaming projectile of light magic that chases them off in style. Horus stares, shocked, and asked if that was light magic. Mel nods proudly, though her bazookas makes Horus nosebleed again, much to Isis's visible suffering. Bro might need therapy at this rate. Trying to ignore the chaos, Isis points ahead toward a patch of tall golden stalks swaying in the wind. Wild cereal grains, nutritious, edible, and apparently delicious. A literal field of luck. They harvest what they can, Horus thanking Isis for her botanical expertise. Back at the castle, the group begins their first farming operation. Isis takes the lead, creating a giant compost box and filling it with plants, minerals, and organic scraps. With a single cast, she accelerates fermentation. The mixture bubbles and thickens, gooey, the perfect. Then Horus steps up, shaping the compost into tidy rows using precision sand manipulation. The entire field lines up like clockwork. Isis confirms they'll have crops soon enough. As evening falls, Horus surveys their progress, castle, oasis, farmland, and 2 ant bases, and thanks everyone for their effort. But before he can celebrate, Ain raises an idea. Next, they should build that. He explains they need a tower, something tall for vantage over the desert terrain. Horus thinks for a moment, then agrees. He summons a massive magic circle, the ground trembles, and a giant sand tower erupts skyward, already sculpted and polished like a royal monument. They climb to the top together. The view is breathtaking, golden dunes, glimmering oasis, endless sky. Horus quietly admits it's beautiful, though his gaze lingers on Isis as he says it, cheeks turning pink. Meanwhile, the sussy camel Raku is up there too, happily dancing like it's a victory party. Horus laughs, warning Raku not to do anything dangerous, and in the very next panel, comedic timing strikes. A giant eagle beast swoops in and yoinks the camel right off the tower. Everyone screams in horror and disbelief as Raku vanishes into the sky. Horus doesn't even think twice. He leaps straight off the tower, riding a sand wave like a pro surfer. The wave streaks across the dunes, chasing the bird through the blazing sky. Closing the gap, Horus slams a sand pillar upward that clips the eagle by surprise. Using that momentum, he launches himself even higher, fist glowing, and delivers a sand fist right to the bird's beak. Raku's freed midair, screaming camel noises of pure trauma. Horus dives after him, wraps them both inside a swirling sandball cushion, and after bouncing a few times, lands safely in a massive plume of dust. They roll groaning, but miraculously, 0 damage. Man and camel just lie there, gasping, bonding through shared PTSD. Then Horus notices something odd. The sand around them glitters. Golden dust, not regular sand. Curiosity wins. He brushes some away and uncovers a hidden staircase leading downward. Naturally, because nothing ever goes wrong after hidden staircases, he descends, dragging the still traumatized sussy camel with him. To light the way, he summons a sand golem, who waddles ahead like a dusty tour guide. As they go deeper, sunlight filters in from cracks above, revealing grand sculptures and intricate carvings gilded in gold. Horus whistles, half in awe, half planning how much of this decor he could borrow to pimp his own castle. At the tunnel's end, the corridor opens into a vast golden hall, marble floors, jewel-encrusted walls, and one enormous sphinx statue dominating the room. No monsters, just silent, majestic excess. But then the statue's eyes glow. It speaks. It calls itself Kanade, a divine beast. Horus nearly jumps out of his sandals. He apologizes for calling her a statue, but Kanade just chuckles, saying most visitors are too blinded by gold to even notice her presence. That's when Horus feels it. Pressure, danger, something ancient sizing him up. He quietly turns to leave. Nope. All the exits slam shut. Kanade laughs, the whole chamber trembling. Horus pleads, saying he's got allies waiting outside and can't stay forever, but she shakes her head. She noted he entered freely, so leaving now would be disrespectful. Her smirk could crush nations. Still, she admits he's brave for such a scrawny mortal, and steps closer. Then she announces a riddle trial. Answer correctly before the giant gold icicle hanging above him drops, and he'll earn a special prize. Fail, and, well, instant human pancake. Horus agrees. The Sphinx's voice echoes, asking, what is the cruel being that kills other living things, greedy yet compassionate, cowardly yet longing for eternity? Without hesitation, Horus blurts out, humans. Silence. Then the Sphinx laughs. Once, twice, then full unhinged laughter filling the hall. Horus, sweating, asks if he was wrong. She keeps chuckling. No, she says, and that he was absolutely right. She steps closer, intrigued, and asked, why answer so quickly? Horus shrugs. It was just too obvious. Kanade explains that others have come before, people too proud, too cautious, too fake to admit the truth. Horus thanks her, relieved, until a blinding golden light erupts from the statue, flooding the entire chamber. Right in front of him stands a curvy, tanned, gorgeous woman, radiant as sunlight, very much not clothed for polite society. When the glow fades, Horus opens his eyes and immediately regrets it. 2 perfectly symmetrical, physics-defying bazookas dominate the frame. Horus freezes, his brain stopped responding. The woman stretches and sighs. She even noted flesh feels so heavy, especially here. She glances down and added how though human males prefer bigger ones too. She grins and asks if Horus would like to touch. Horus is officially a scrub, as he did not touch them. Boo. Horus achieves enlightenment and cardiac arrest simultaneously. His face combusts as stares so hard at the bazookas and desperately tries to compute what's happening. Sweating bullets, he stammers out a single question. Why is she in human form? Kanade smiles slyly. She then answers, the special prize was indeed her. Uh-oh, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.